You're listening to the British Baseball Podcast. Hello, baseball fans. Matthew here again with another episode of the British Baseball Podcast. And this week we're focusing on some more British baseball team history and reviews. And up to the plate, we have the Birmingham Baseball Club. Just a quick reminder, head over to linktr.ee/BritBaseballPod for all the news and show links to see how you can support this independent podcast and all that just for the price of a small brew. But also to get all the links and updates to anything that's happening within British baseball. The Hall of Fame links are in there. There is also Project Cobb links in there. Just have a look. I've tried to consolidate a lot of websites and baseball information that I think you might find interesting. So before we start this one, I'd like to thank Michael Finnegan for sending me some excellent club history on the Birmingham baseball team. And also Nathan Fernando for joining me to chat more about the Birmingham Metalheads. So if you want to come onto the podcast and chat about your team's history or region history, or you might even want to send me some bits and pieces surrounding British baseball history, please feel free to do so and get in contact via britishbaseballpodcast@gmail.com or the usual handles at britbaseballpod. So the Birmingham Baseball Club, the beginnings. Michael sent me this cracking little article, so I'm just going to read it to you if that's all right with you. Story time with Matthew right here. Get ready for bed. It's about the Maple Leafs organization history. So the beginnings of Birmingham Baseball, much like any major league teams of the United States, the Maple Leafs and its organization are blessed with rich and engaging history. Surprisingly, the team's players and organizers pride themselves in knowing the part they play in a continuing legacy that dates back over 60 baseball years. This makes them virtually unique in the United Kingdom amateur baseball environment. The first era of Marston Green baseball history began in World War II in the summer of 1940, when the British government sequestered many hospitals around the country for the purpose of providing Commonwealth allies with suitable facilities to care for their war casualties. Marston Green's Hospital was one such hospital allocated to the Allies, more specifically the Royal Canadian Medical Corps. The Corps occupied Marston Green Hospital for a 5-year period, and in that time, Canadian casualties were frequently transferred from medical attention to Hospital Number 7, as it was then known. During their convalences, the patients frequently participated in recreational activities on the hospital grounds, which are now known as Marston Green Rec Grounds. The main activity for the Canadian casualties was obviously baseball, as ice hockey rinks were not widely available in wartime Marston Green. Due to this lack of ice, the Maple Leafs legacy was born, and the bats were swung with regularity throughout the war on the makeshift diamond that was marked out by the Canadian servicemen. Once the war was won and the surviving servicemen made their long journey home, the diamond lay dormant until the new millennium. Overgrown but still clearly visible, the diamond was reawakened in 2003 by baseball enthusiasts who was totally enthralled by the ground's enchanting history. 63 years after the first bat was swung, the second era of Marston Green baseball history began, with the help of one baseball enthusiast who set out on a quest to rekindle the flame of the ground's former glories. Now, Michael sent over some photos as well, which if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to try and magically blur in there some sort of amazing seamless thing. But if not, it's just about how they were going to put the Maple Leaf onto the hats and adopting mottos as well. Is quite interesting. So thank you very much for that, Michael. Really appreciate it. So let's get on now to the episode where we're going to talk to Nathan about the current state of Birmingham Baseball Club. I hope you enjoy this one, and I'll see you on the other side. And joining me on today's episode to talk a bit more about the Birmingham Metalheads. A little faux pas there, a little slip. And I knew I'd end up doing that. And joined by Birmingham Baseball's very own head coach, Nathan Fernando. Nathan, how are we?
Hello, I'm excellent. Yeah, very excited to be here today. There's a lot to talk about with kind of everything that's been happening over the last few weeks. So yeah, very excited to share it all.
Yeah, and we touched on just before this little segment then on the history of the Birmingham Baseball Club. You've recently undertaken a name change and a bit of rebranding. Do you want to talk us a bit through that?
Yeah, so obviously a lot of the guys that have been around the baseball scene for a while will know that the baseball team that has existed in Birmingham has gone through quite a few shifts, and this is another one of them. So we are now, of course, the Birmingham Metalheads, and a very exciting rebrand it is. We're in the WNBL for the first time, and yeah, it should be very interesting to say the least. We did shift from the Birmingham Bandits, and we've got a whole new identity. We've got a whole new kit design, a whole new everything, and yeah, it's very exciting. We've got a whole bunch of interest in our GoFundMe recently that was allowing us to fund our fund improvements to our baseball field and all that stuff. And yeah, the new season is looking really, really exciting, and especially with all the great people we have involved behind the scenes, it should be yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I've been in touch with some of your members down there with Michael at Birmingham Baseball Club to seeing how things are developing. Sent some pictures of the new diamond. It's all kind of it's coming together nicely. What was the decision behind changing into the Metalheads from the previous?
Yeah, well, we kind of had when the management was going through a bit of a shift. I think we had our old chairman decided to step away, and all that stuff, and then we decided, as a few of us, it was originally kind of proposed as us stepping away, making an entirely new team. It was me and a few of the other kind of regulars of the team were like, yeah, let's make a whole new team, and all that. And then we were like, well, we've got all the stuff here, we might as well try and look at rebranding. So and then we found Michael, who was actually making a team in Bromsgrove in the nearby area, and we reached out to him at the time and said, hey, look, we're looking to rebrand as well. Maybe we could kind of work something out here. And it ended up being a great trade where we got Michael involved, and he's now running as chairman and all that stuff. And yeah, it's all been a great shift in the way that we've been doing everything, and it's worked out really well for us. And we've got this we've got a lot of money behind us with the GoFundMe drive with the which went really, really well, and we're applying for the BSUK match funding on that as well. So hopefully a large amount of physical reconstruction, as well as management reconstruction, and it should be really good. And especially with the shift into the WNBL, which means we don't have to travel as far to our games, as well as that we're kind of sticking to the local area, and playing against people we know, and yeah, it should be a lot of fun, to say the least.
How excited are you then for the new season with the West Midlands Baseball League?
Definitely, yeah. There's a lot of players that I know. There's a few players actually that I know from playing in university. Because a little bit of information about me is I actually did play. I was the president of the Coventry University team for 2 years. So with that, I was able to kind of very easily shift into a management position on the Metalheads, and I had done for a while. But as well as that, a lot of the players that I'd seen in the university baseball scene actually do play in teams in the WNBL, so it would be nice to see them again, and I kind of know a lot about them. But as well as that, it's also been nice to not have to travel so far, and the WNBL's got a very rich league with a lot of teams in it that have a lot of good players in them, and not to mention as well good opportunities for tournaments. We have the Battle of Britain coming up soon as well, which is another big opportunity for WNBL players that we kind of haven't really had a lot of access to in the past. So it should be, really exciting to see that kind of cohesion in the West Midlands to enjoy baseball. I think it should be fun.
Yeah, indeed. Was university then your first taste of baseball?
Yeah, so I'd been a cricket player for my whole life. My whole family plays cricket and all that stuff, and I think it had started to grow a bit stale for me. I hadn't really been enjoying it as much as I feel like I should have. So then in university, I started playing for the Coventry University Red Arrows, and they were kind of in their first or second year, and it just kind of grew from there. Really, my love for baseball just grew from there, and I've played a multitude of positions. I've been a pitcher in the past. I've been outfielder, shortstop, and now I'm kind of settling at catcher, which is rough on my knees. But besides that, nothing too much. But yeah, it's been a long journey from kind of the player I was in university, but that was my first big taste of it, and then. Besides, I think when I went to the US as well, because I do work at a summer camp in the States, and I have a lot of exposure to baseball there. Get to watch a lot of minor league and major league baseball games. Get to play with the kids and all that stuff. So it's a lot of fun.
The kids think it's weird that you know much about baseball.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, they're always a bit surprised when they see they have a British counsellor that has a catcher's mitt with them, and the first the first thing they ask on the first day is, "Do you want to play catch?" and all that stuff. It's always interesting, and they're always fascinated to hear about the way the scene works over here, because obviously it's quite a drastic shift. But then when you tell them that the Yankees are playing in London right now, and I think the next one, she was the Cardinals versus the Cubs, I think is the next one they're doing in London at some point. And all these big rivalries coming over to the UK is just a great something that at least in America they don't get to hear about a lot. And it's a big shift for them a lot, at least.
Yeah. So how do you sell British baseball as a product to kids in America? What do you tell them when they say, what's baseball like in Britain?
A lot of the time it comes down to the fact that it's a bit of reality. Like a lot of the time, you kind of have to accept the fact that a lot of these kids are really, really good at baseball. A lot of the time they are better than a lot of the British baseball contenders. But you still also have to accept the fact that there is a lot of good British talent. I mean, a lot of us are raised on cricket, as I said. So we have that, quite kind of natural hand-eye coordination. While we may not be so raised on baseball, we're still raised on bats and balls and the ability to connect one and the other and hand-eye coordination and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, I think it sells quite well because it's an entirely new thing for us, and a lot of it's very grassroots and sandlots and all that kind of thing, and that's the stuff that kids in America are raised on. And it's very similar to something that they would have experienced themselves. Just obviously, we don't have like the tippy top that they have, but with the scene growing every season, I see a bright future there. So it's always fun to talk about it.
Yeah, lovely. What does baseball mean to you then?
So baseball for me is number one, it's probably my favorite sport to play. Just in terms of getting out of the house and doing something and all that stuff, it's been incredibly valuable for me. But it also means a lot in terms of just the friendships I've made around baseball. Like I've got a few good friends that are in the Birmingham organization that I've known for now 4 years, that are some of my closest friends. And not only is it a social element, but it's a way for me to express the side of me that's still, I call it the cricket side of me, that still is really interested in that sort of genre of sport. And it's just insanely fun to play. It's really satisfying for me. The sound of a ball hitting a catcher's mitt, crack of the bat, all that sort of stuff is all things that I just find really satisfying. And as a sport as a whole, the 1-versus-1 aspect where it's pitcher versus hitter and who comes out on top and all that stuff, it's just something that I've loved ever since I played cricket back in the day, and ever since now. So it's just one of those things that has always been consistent, and I've always loved it, I think.
So how much does the Birmingham Baseball Club mean to you?
Oh, so much. It's been incredibly valuable to me to have a team like like Birmingham. I mean, there's teams that are actually like closer to me geographically, because I actually live a fairly far distance away from the Birmingham Metalheads. But the club as a whole means a lot to me. There's been some great members in and out of the club over the years, and some very phenomenal players that I've bonded with. And as a whole, I think the organization is really, really good, and I think we have chances to play at really high levels. We did get to the playoff finals in the BBF divisions last year, or last season I should say, and all that stuff. So it was a really, really big thing for us to get that far. And I feel like the organization has always had talent. There's always been talent in the system, and I think it's just applying it in the right way and getting it to those high tier spots. So not only are we competitive, I feel like we're also a lot of fun. We always have fun at the ballpark. We're not too serious. We're not too we're not too relaxed. There's competitiveness mixed with fun. I think that's something that I've not seen matched in most other baseball clubs I've visited.
How do you compare then the Metalheads to the rest of the teams within the West Midlands Baseball League? Do you think you're going to be contending straight away, or do you think it's going to be something that you're trying to make your status in the first season and build upon it?
Yeah, I think it might be slow goings at the start. I think we've got a lot of new players, a lot of veterans and stuff like that. So there's a big mixture in there of players that have a lot of raw talent and players that might kind of take a bit of time to catch up. And I think as well as that, with obviously the season being shortened last year, and over the winter, I imagine people haven't been practicing as much. We didn't get a winter training in and stuff like that. So we have a whole bunch of new players and new interests, but it's just trying to figure out how to apply those players. And especially my position as head coach, I'm very excited to teach these new players, attitudes at the plate, how to take good cuts and all that stuff. And it's just building that ground up attitude that should work really well. And I think after a while we'll probably start to be competitive. First season, I'm still feeling pretty confident. We've got a solid few pitches under our belt. We've got a few solid position players in the infield that have been practicing. And I think there's big potential. But like I said, it's just learning how to apply it, and obviously maybe turning a few players into pitchers and all that sort of stuff is going to be very useful as well.
Cool. Do you think you're going to be taking more of a back seat now that you're a head coach, or do you still think you'll be mixing up?
I think personally for me, I love playing far too much to take myself out. As much as I would love to, I feel like if there is a big opportunity where I think having a new player in is a really good idea, then I'm obviously perfectly down with letting a new player kind of take the stand and see what they can do and give themselves that game experience. As when I was playing in my first game for the original Bandits, I was given an opportunity to walk off a game and I did it. So it was one of those big opportunities that I got when I was a new player. And I would only hope that I'd be able to do the same to another player. But yeah, as someone who's played a lot of baseball at the university level and is now playing catcher in a team where we don't have a whole lot of catchers until we train some up, that is, it's going to be key that I kind of stay on the field, because I'm fairly I'm probably the loudest member of our team, I'd say, as a whole. On the field, I do a lot of talking on the field and stuff like that. So keeping everyone's morale up is incredibly important to me, even when I'm sitting at the sidelines. So but obviously on the field, I feel like is where I at least thrive the most. So it'll be interesting to see, who we can move in and out of the lineup, I guess.
Interesting. So what are some of your favorite baseballing memories?
So I would say, at least from my personal perspective, as a player, I'd say probably my memories are probably the best from Coventry when I was running their team. We did quite well in the National University Baseball Championships at Farnham Park, or we did a lot better than we were expecting, and we took a few good games off like Oxford University and had a few good games against Loughborough University and stuff like that. And those are the kind of games that I remember, because I have seen all these players through never held a baseball bat before to coming along to the nationals and doing really well. And then in terms of the Bandits as well, I've had so many good memories with them. Getting to the playoffs. I remember literally it was in 2019, I think. I literally just 2 days ago just gotten off the plane from America after my summer away, and I was immediately down to London to play in the semi-final playoffs against the London Musketeers. And I remember that game really well, because I remember one of my players, I think I was batting second, and I was told to bring the leading runner home, and I said, well, if you get on second, I'll do it. And luckily managed to do it and keep my word. But it was one of those big moments that I remember as walking away with that eventual win was just something I find incredibly satisfying going back to it.
What are your ambitions then in the sport?
So I think my ambitions have changed quite a lot over the last few years. I think I originally wanted to try and make it onto Team GB a few years ago. So I was training really hard as a shortstop and stuff like that. But I think now realizing that I think my goal is a bit more to be more active as a head coach in the Metalheads in the Metalheads organization, because we've overall we haven't had a lot of ability to coach. Obviously with COVID and all that, we didn't do the big winter training as we usually would do. So we've got to do a big push right now. So I think my ambition is to try and get game time for all of our players, and hopefully walk away with a few early wins so we can get players coming in who really want to keep playing, and try and keep those consistent numbers in at training, because we see teams like Cambridge that always get massive turnouts at training and all that stuff, and trying to get those numbers consistently coming back to training, so we get a good amount of player turnover, a good amount of player game time and stuff like that. I think that's the big goal for at least myself right now.
Cool. Can I take you back to those university days? Because I know it's a fairly big scene out there, but it's something I've been trying to get into and investigate a bit more. I've got hopefully got some features coming up on university baseball.
Yeah.
But I don't know anything about university baseball really. So what can you tell me and the listeners that are out there that may not know anything about university baseball? Because I do have, from my analytics, quite a youngish section of the audience. So it could be that some of these young athletes are going off from college to university soon. What could you tell them and us, the listeners, about uni baseball?
Yeah, so one big thing that is weird, and it's kind of the first thing to preface this whole thing is the season takes place in a very odd time of year. So obviously, the university academic year starts in September, and the games start at about the same time, and the games run from September to about May time, March time, and that's obviously peak winter, peak spring. So it's not the best time to play baseball. So it is a little bit weird in that regard. You play on muddy diamonds, you play in -2, all that sort of stuff. So it is rough to play baseball in university, that's for sure. But you get to the spring and you get the big university national championships, and it's a lot of fun. And as far as my knowledge goes, I think just after I graduated, the Bucks organization, or the British University and Colleges Sport, they actually did pick up baseball as an organization. So now they have, I think they're going to have Bucks Wednesdays and stuff like that to allow university teams more game time against other teams and stuff like that. And especially in the Midlands as well, there's actually quite a large amount of teams in the area. Actually, one of the best teams in university baseball, so that is Loughborough University, who have consistently won the Nationals Championship for as long as I can remember. They're in the Midlands area. They've always played really well. Oxford has always put up a good showing, and they're nearby as well. So it's always these teams that have a large amount of presence that have been very useful. And I think overall, university baseball is interesting from a managerial perspective, because it's hard keeping player turnover, especially with players graduating, players having to focus on their dissertations, whatever it might be. It's hard to get the consistent number of players that play really well. Like, for example, we had a few really good Korean pitchers that ended up having to focus on their studies towards the end of the season, so we ended up losing them to their academics. And that is one thing that you have to consider when it comes to running baseball as a university sport. But it is still so much fun, and it's a really big, interesting thing, because a lot of players haven't played before. So you get a large mixture of players that have played a lot of baseball and a lot of players that have never touched a baseball bat in their life. So it is really fun to take those players, to tournaments and see the ones that have performed really well perform, and see the players that really want to develop. So I think it's always fun to see that development.
You said that you worked your way up to president of the Coventry Baseball team. So what are your duties involved in that then? So
that was kind of a big amount of everyday running. So I organized most training sessions, made sure that we knew where we were supposed to be, worked in tandem with my committee to keep control of the club finances and stuff like that, and try and arrange as many socials as we possibly could. And generally try and make sure that we were represented as much as we could. We felt like a lot of the time in the Midlands, we had a lot of the pressure on our shoulders as well, because we were the Coventry team. Warwick didn't have a baseball team. There wasn't one at Birmingham, anything like that. So we kind of were the only ones that were fairly local. So it was quite hard for us to represent that in a way, but it was still a lot of fun. I think I was always trying to get us represented at tournaments, to get us represented in games, trying to get us to travel to go to play as many teams as we possibly could. We played a few games against like Sheffield and stuff like that if we wanted to travel. So trying to arrange games, I think was the most stressful thing that we were ever doing, trying to make sure we had 10, 11, 12, 13 players for every game was always a bit stressful, but it was a lot of fun, and I definitely wouldn't have changed it, because I now that I look back on it, I do miss playing in it, and I think now that the current president is still trying to plan some new things, but it's always interesting to come back and see what they're doing.
Yeah, cool. Are you going to go on down and watch some games, or is that something that you're not allowed to do?
I'm allowed to go and watch, but I'm a bit concerned about going to watch and then really wanted to play. So I kind of might try and take more of a sideline aspect there, because I don't really want to accidentally step on any toes, because I did really love the Coventry team, and I do miss getting to being in control of the training sessions and run everything and all that stuff. It was so much fun, and I do miss it a lot. yeah, no, definitely. I'll try and go to a few, and I'll see what I can do.
Awesome. I think that's pretty much everything that I've got written down and to ask. Nathan, it's tradition on the show to leave the last word open to the guests. So, Nathan, do you have any shout outs, any parting tips and advice, or anything else you want to talk about before we go?
Yeah, I'd just like to kind of give a big shout out to everyone that contributed to our GoFundMe that we recently did. You guys are going to be really, really useful in, the money that you raise is going to be really, really useful in rebuilding our diamond and making it 10 times better than it ever was. If you want to see where your money's going, keep in touch with our Facebook page, Birmingham Metalheads or Birmingham Baseball Club. We'll always have information on there regarding what you need, how you can get involved as well if you feel like coming down to play some baseball. We should have training starting soon as well, so it should be very exciting. I think it's just as far as that, just to say thank you to the extended management team for being so, for sticking at it with COVID and everything, meaning that we basically couldn't do anything baseball themed, and handling our rebrand as best as we possibly could. So yeah, it's a very exciting season. I hope that if people catch this podcast, they feel like coming down to play, that know that they're absolutely welcome to do so.
Excellent, lovely stuff. Nathan, all the best for next season, and I'll be in touch soon.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
It's been a pleasure.
Ta-ra. If you want a little bit more of Midlands baseball action, if you head over to projectcob.org.uk/ebooks/watv.pdf, you'll find a little ebook there that's written by Joe Gray called What About the Villa? And it's just some notes that are on there too. So if you want to have a read of it, you might find some great pictures in there, some lovely articles, and a lot of literature about baseball in the Midlands, and one of the first baseball teams to exist in the country. So that is projectcob.org.uk/ebooks/W for whiskey, A for apple, T for tango, V for victory .pdf. Thank you. Thank you. Like it's a public announcement. Oh, what a fool.